There's nothing more disheartening than to see animals locked up against their free will and away from their real home and family, ready to witness some of the most daring acts of people, or should I say heroes, doing the most to get these animals their lives back. Everyone knows not to mess with a rhino. Well, not these people. As long as it's at the cost of getting this animal its freedom, these people were ready for anything. I mean, perching on the same truck as the rhino still counts. After being freed, to show its gratitude, the rhino charges out of the truck and into the wood without engaging any of the rescuers or the bystanders.
What's capable of rocking a 2-ton truck like that? A rhinoceros in the prime of its life, which these people decided to set free. They're lucky the rhino decided not to end them.
After losing its home to deforestation, a leopard found itself in the heart of the street of India's Uttar parades, unintentionally rampaging the place and causing panic and fear amongst the people. For it, finding a place to call a home is all it asks for. But unfortunately, the street is no place for a wild animal like a leopard to find shelter. Luckily, a generous animal activist discovered the roaming leopard and finds it a home.
Fleeing from deforestation, this leopard ended up on the streets of India's Uttar Pradesh, where fortunately he fell into the hands of animal rights activists who helped him find a safe place in his habitat.
A large male rescue lion named Sinbad is ready to be set free. When the cage of its confinement is opened, everyone expected Sinbad to grace the opportunity right away. But surprisingly, he seemed hesitant to accept its much-anticipated freedom. He reluctantly walked out on his padded paws out of the cage. For the first time in his life, he found himself basking in the sun's rays outside of captivity. Even though his natural tendency is to wander off immediately, he will require some time to get used to his new life of being free.
This rescue lion is named Sinbad. He's being released into his new home for the first time, and as you can see, it's very overwhelming for him. He takes some time to adjust, feeling the sun's rays on him in the real open air for the first time in his life. Even if his instinct is to roam free, his captive life means he'll need time to adjust.
So much can be said for these chimpanzees as they witness their freedom in what would never have remotely been a dream. They crawl out one after the other in awe of their new surroundings. As they feel the grass for the first time, you can see the wonder and disbelief in their eyes. These chimpanzees have never in their lives seen grass or trees, much less touched them or even stepped on dirt. It is evident from watching them joggle with delight that keeping animals in cages against their will is never a good idea.
You can see the awe and amazement in the eyes of these chimps as they touch grass for the very first time in their lives. These chimpanzees had never seen grass, trees, bushes, or even set their foot on soil in their lives. Seeing them immediately thrive reminds us why animals should never be caged against their will.
This lion has been locked in a circus cage for 13 years, and now he is ready for his freedom. When they open his cage, the lion responds quickly and runs out to feel the new surrounding. He began to rub his paws on the soil, digging into it, and having his time bunting on anything he finds.
Spent all 13 years of its life in a little circus cage. But now, for the first time, it can feel the grass and run free.
Out of the 12 tigers in Peruvian service, Hoover was the only one that an international animal rights organization was able to rescue from a small cage. His first glimpse at freedom, and without a second thought, he dashed swiftly into the jungle. He was seen crouching closely to the bank of a lake sipping water, and even had a happy swim in the same lake to cool off all that heat of captivity.
This is Hoover, the only one out of 12 tigers that an international animal rights organization managed to save from a cramped cage in a Peruvian service. Thanks to volunteers, he was able to find a new home. He saw the forest for the first time and even swam in a lake.
A rescued chimp named Wuda would not have anticipated this day as she crawls out of her cage after her rescuer freed her. She looks overwhelmingly around, ready to flee the scene. But Wuda startled everyone by turning back and giving Jane Goodall, one of her rescuers, a hug. It seemed Wuda will always cherish this memory. Wuda was a chimpanzee that Jane Goodall helped to save from the bushmeat trade. After rehabilitation, Wuda would be returned to her natural habitat.
A rescued chimp unexpectedly embraced Jane Goodall upon her release. Woundo was a chimpanzee rescued from the bushmeat trade, but thanks to Jane Goodall, Wuda was rehabilitated and released.
One of the largest flying birds, the condor, was yet another victim to an unforeseen accident. This poor condor was found laying on the ground with a broken wing 1 month ago. After being nursed and taken care, she is now ready to be released by her caretaker and return home. And so, she took to the sky once again, soaring to the hilly background.
Poor condor was found on the ground with a broken wing 1 month ago. But today, he can spread his huge wings again and finally take to the skies once again.
After rehabilitation, the time has come for this baby penguin's rescuer to set him free. He is carefully dropped close to the sea. But before he ventures into the sea, he has to rethink for a moment about parting ways with his rescuer or opening himself to what lies ahead. But an ocean calls and the nestling must respond. He tapped on forward and enters the wave to be carried away by it.
The penguin has been rehabilitated and the time has come for him to be released. He's not so sure about parting with his rescuer, but an ocean of adventure calls and the little guy eventually answers.
You would probably be surprised why this group of chimps still stand in their confines, reluctant and staring out through the open doors, even after being set free. Just picture what it would be like to be test subjects for 30 years in the lab. Nothing like that should ever have to happen to any creature. It is going to be these chimps' first time outside. They might as well take things slowly. But what hurts more is the way they embrace each other with unadulterated joy the moment they understood they were free.
It would be like to spend 30 years in laboratories as test subjects. These chimpanzees are about to go outside for the first time. The way they hug each other out of pure joy just breaks my heart. No creature should have to be put through something like that.
The moment his confine was open, the deer, still trying to process what was happening, held still. Was he free to go? Who cares? There's an opportunity in front of him, and he will take it at any cost. With a swift leap, he nearly snaps its neck when he unintentionally hits the ground. Luckily, he was all right. It was clear from the start that it had been patiently waiting for a day like this to return to its rightful place in the wild. It got back up, charging forth into a life of liberty.
This deer was startled at the sight of the outdoors. After almost breaking its neck in an attempt to flee, the deer instantly picked itself back up and headed into its new home.
To join her companion, the Rottweiler, this panther hops into the family vehicle to join a family-friendly ride. By bringing the domestic black panther to a natural habitat where her kind would typically flourish, the family hopes to help the big cat to get accustomed to life in the wild. Who knows? Maybe she'll find a new home with her kind. With her leash securely fastened, the black panther is seen ahead of her Rottweiler companion, dashing enthusiastically through the wintry woodland.
This family decided to help their domestic panther get acquainted with the wild. Just look at how her Rottweiler friend guides her on a tour through the snowy forest.
As the animal rights activist releases the rescued orangutans, one of the males went berserk. Perhaps he's harbored a long-standing resentment, and here is his chance to prove to them that you never mess with orangutans. But the other orangutans were also in risk of getting hurt from his outburst. The rangers needed to figure out how to wrap up the rescue mission as quickly as possible in order to prevent the situation from getting worse.
The last to leave his cage, Bruce really stood out to us. Leaving one's comfort zone can be scary, but eventually, he took the leap and embraced his new reality.
Logan, a Florida panther, was astonished to have his cage unlocked before his eyes. He hesitated for a time, staring about in disbelief. He immediately bolted out of his reluctance and rushed out of the cage into the wild after a small kick on the cage by the rescuers. The Florida panther is an endangered species. Logan's decision to join with other survivors and contribute to the preservation of his species is commendable.
This lion hasn't made a full recovery, but as soon as he realizes that the path to freedom is open, well,
George, a platypus, wriggles his body in ecstasy as his rescuers gently remove him from a small enclosure. They took him to the water, where he flaps his webbed foot in an apparent attempt to re-establish himself in his natural environment. After spending several months in Tanga Hospital following an accident, George is now where he should be, home.
George the platypus spent several months in Taronga Hospital after being accidentally found exhausted in a trap with no hope of being rescued. But that's all in the past, and now it's time for the cutest reunion with nature.
Due to its enormous weight, a 450-kilo polar bear had to rely on unusual means to return to its place. The rescuers used their chopper to save it trouble of finding its true home. If the polar bear jolts out during their operation, it might become a dangerous situation. This was the restrictions on how far up the pilots could go on lifting the creature. Thankfully, the Rangers delivered the furry animal on safe land before it woke.
A 450-kilogram polar bear had to resort to unconventional methods to get back to the wild. The pilots were limited in how high and far they could go because the bear could have woken up at any moment. Fortunately, the bear woke up as soon as it got home.
Flippa looked through the opening in her cage. She was unsure of where she was, but her dread passed quickly, and she sprang from her cage like a mother trying to save her cub as soon as it was opened. I guess she misses her home so dearly. She was the 8th Amori tiger that the rescuers had managed to free. Well done, Rangers.
Flippa looked so scared as she peeped through the holes of her cage and saw an unfamiliar place. That fear didn't last long though, because the second her cage was opened, she ran like the wind. She was the 7th Amur tiger to be released by the same rescue foundation.
If you knew that this bear who is now free has been locked up in a small cage since he was born, where he couldn't stand, let alone move around, you will join it in its dance of freedom.
This is Tuffy the bear, and this is his first time being happy to be alive. That's because until today, his entire life has been spent in a cage too small for him to even stand up.
Since it was the size of a grain of rice, this 60-pound Pacific octopus has been a subject of research at the Seattle Aquarium. However, it was time for it to continue on and have a full life in the ocean like every other octopus.
60-pound Pacific octopus has been studied at the Seattle Aquarium since it was the size of a grain of rice. But now it's time for it to go on out and live a full life.
It is his first time in the wild and out of a cage, but it doesn't stop the gray fox. It moves around in it like an animal that was born or has lived his entire life in the wild and not one that was raised in a cage.
A gray fox was released from its cage into the wild, and its natural instincts made him adapt almost instantly.
These volunteers helped 51 bighorn sheep from the desert after saving them from a flock. They are now being reintroduced into a region where none of the animals have lived in a long time. All that counts is that these creatures are delighted to be back.
These volunteers rescued 51 desert bighorn sheep and helped them form a flock. Now, they're being reintroduced to an area where none of these animals have been for many years.
For one rare occasion, all of these people have gathered to assist in guiding a family of beavers to a nature preserve so that these magnificent animals can establish a new home in freedom within their natural ecosystem. When you witness them rushing from their cage, you'll know you're doing the right thing, letting them go.
All these people have gathered for one special event, help guide a family of beavers to a nature preserve where the beautiful creatures can build their ecosystem in total freedom.
It was clear as a glass that this coyote has had enough of being locked in a cage, because the moment he was released and saw that he could once again roam in wild, he dashed out in eagerness to rejoin his kind.
This coyote was tired of living a caged life. The moment he saw the grass and trees, he sprinted out of the cage and eagerly explored its new abode.
Who would suspect that a tiger who's been away from its natural environment and it's being transported back via a boat would jump into the water? I mean, why wait for a boat when you can swim there quicker?
The animal was supposed to be taken home by ship, but the beast couldn't stand to be in a cage any longer.
A group of volunteers continue to wow us as they release these little guys. They have now released a record number of over 10,000 of these endangered amphibians called hellbenders back into the river over a span of 20 years.
These endangered amphibians are called hellbenders, and believe it or not, this is the 10,000th individual that these volunteers have released over 20 years.
It's so riveting letting go of these adorable baby bears. As they display playful gestures and roam freely, you could tell they're happy to be out of captivity.
The cutest orphan baby bears were set free, and our hearts can't help but melt at the sight.